Good day everyone, I am Janina Molina and together with my partner, Jerna Krishay Bose, we will talk about the Duchenne Muscular Dystrophy, or simply DMD. So what is Duchenne Muscular Dystrophy? It is a rare genetic disease and a severe form of muscular dystrophy caused by a genetic defect and usually affecting boys. It is one of four conditions as dystrophinopathies. An example of this is Becker muscular dystrophy and Duchenne muscular dystrophy. We will know more about Duchenne muscular dystrophy as we go on with our presentation.
Here is a brief history of the Duchenne muscular dystrophy. Duchenne muscular dystrophy, or DMD, is named after the French neurologist Guillaume Benjamin Armand Duchenne, who talked about the disease in his journals and writings. DMD was first discovered by Giovanni Simolla and Gaetano Conte in 1834, and the men continued their research of the disease through 1836. DMD is still a genetic disorder present in the world today, and efforts to suppress the effects with research and scientific studies are still ongoing to this day. The first historical account of MD was reported by Conte and Simolla in 1836 when they described two brothers with progressive weakness starting at age of 10. These boys later developed generalized weakness and hypertrophy of multiple muscle groups, which are now known to be characteristics of the milder Becker MD. How is Duchenne muscular dystrophy inherited? Duchenne muscular dystrophy, or DMD, is a genetic disorder where the mother is the carrier, and it occurs in about 1 in 5,000 male births. DMD is inherited as an X-linked disease. X-linked genetic disorders are conditions caused by an abnormal gene on the X chromosome and manifest mostly in males. Females that have a defective gene present on one of their X chromosomes are carriers for that disorder. Males have one X chromosome that is inherited from their mother, and if a male inherits an X chromosome that contains a defective gene, he will develop the disease. Female carriers of an X-linked disorder have a 25% chance with each pregnancy to have a carrier daughter like themselves, a 25% chance to have an uncarrier daughter, a 25% chance to have a son affected with the disease, and a 25% chance to have an unaffected son.
Let's take a look on the pedigree chart on the presentation. The shaded square one represents male with DMD. The unshaded square represents normal male. The unshaded circle represents normal female, while the shaded circle represents female with DMD. The pedigree shows that the father has DMD and the wife is not a carrier. They had 3 kids, 2 daughters and a son. The daughters are carriers of DMD because the mother and the father both pass one X chromosome onto them. But the mother doesn't have the disease. This means if they have offspring, their offspring have the chance of being born with DMD or be a carrier. If the parents have a son, the father can only pass on a Y chromosome and the mother passes on the X chromosome. So, this pedigree shows that the son is a normal male. In the 3rd generation, the male shows up with DMD again. This is because the female was a carrier and passed on the mutated X chromosome to the cause the offspring have the genetic disorder. So it is really important for us to know our family health background, for us to know what genetic diseases exist in our family, and also to reduce the risk of acquiring these diseases.
How does DMD affect the victim? This disease is caused by the mistakes of the dystrophin genes, which leads to no dystrophin productions. Dystrophin is an important protein for the structure of muscles. It helps keep muscle cells intact, and without it, progressive muscle weakness and muscle wasting occur. DMD is caused by the changes or mutations of the DMD gene on the X chromosome. The gene regulates the production of a protein called dystrophin, which is thought to play an important role in maintaining the membrane of muscle cells. Most young boys with DMD may experience problems with running and are unable to climb stairs repeatedly without support. They may have pseudo-hypertrophy of the calves, meaning false enlargement of the calf muscles that become replaced by fat and scar tissue. Another feature can be toe walking because the calf muscles are tightened, and wide base stands for stability. DMD usually becomes apparent during early childhood. Affected children develop weakness and wasting of the muscles closest to the trunk, such as those of the upper legs and pelvic area, and the upper arms and shoulder area. In children with DMD, initial findings may include delays in reaching developmental milestones such as sitting or standing without assistance, toe walking, difficulty climbing stairs or rising from a sitting position, or the Gowers sign, and repeated falling.
So how can we know if a male has Duchenne muscular dystrophy? These are the symptoms: delayed motor development, taking longer to learn to sit, stand, or walk. Usually, a normal baby could learn how to walk at the age of 18 months. But in the case of a baby having a Duchenne muscular dystrophy, they can learn how to walk later than 18 months and eventually lose its ability to walk at the age of 7. Some symptoms of Duchenne muscular dystrophy includes enlargement of calf muscles, muscle weakness that gets worse over time, toe walking or waddling gait, using hands to get off the floor, and progressive enlargement of the heart. The first symptoms of DMD usually occur in boys in early childhood and include muscle weakness and clumsiness. Developmental milestones such as sitting and walking are often delayed. By the early teens, most boys with DMD are using a wheelchair. Breathing problems occur due to weakness of the diaphragm and the other muscles around the lungs. Scoliosis and tight joints may develop as the muscle loss gets worse. Breathing problems and progressive enlargement of the heart may become life-threatening. Learning and memory issues may occur in some cases but do not worsen as DMD progresses. We cannot just see the symptoms of DMD at the first stage or at the beginning of the growth of a male or a boy, but it is a continuous process that gets worse over time. Since DMD is the primary cause of deaths in young males with muscular dystrophies, mortality rates are a reasonable proxy for the relative difference in racial prevalence. Duchenne muscular dystrophies doesn't apply to specific group, but in some cases, it appears that DMD is significantly more common in white males than in males of other races. So DMD can be acquired regardless of the ethnic groups we belong.
Blood tests and muscle biopsies can confirm a diagnosis of DMD. The blood test used to reach this diagnosis is called a creatine phosphokinase test. When muscles deteriorate, they release a large amount of creatine phosphokinase enzyme into the blood. If the test detects high levels of creatine phosphokinase, muscle biopsies or genetic tests will determine the type of muscular dystrophy. The Genetic Testing Registry or GTR provides information about the genetic test for this condition. The intended audience for the GTR is healthcare providers and researchers. A diagnosis of DMD is made based upon a thorough clinical evaluation, a detailed patient history, and a variety of specialized tests, including molecular genetic tests. If the genetic tests are not informative, surgical removal and microscopic examination of affected muscle tissue that may reveal characteristic changes to muscle fibers. Specialized blood tests that evaluate the presence and levels of certain proteins in muscle are also used. Genetic Testing Registry or GTR provides a central location for voluntary submission of genetic test information by providers. The scope includes the test's purpose, methodology, validity, evidence of the test's usefulness, and laboratory contacts and credentials. DMD is a fatal condition. Most individuals with DMD pass away during their 20s. However, with diligent care, some people with DMD survive into their 30s. In the later stages of the disease, most people with DMD will need full-time care to maintain quality of life.
The condition is degenerative, which means that the need of medical care increases as the condition worsens. As symptoms begin to appear between ages 2 and 6, the child will usually need regular monitoring of a medical team. Sadly, as of now, there is no known cure for Duchenne muscular dystrophy. But there are treatments that is focused on managing the symptoms of DMD and related complications caused by severe progressive muscle weakness and loss. Medications may improve the strength and functions of the muscles. An enlarged, weakened heart may be treated with medications, but in severe cases, a heart transplant may be necessary. Assistive devices for breathing difficulties may be needed, especially at night and as the disease progresses.
Since no curative treatments exist in DMD, treatments are aimed at the specific symptoms present in each individual. Here are the FDA-approved medications. Deflazacort was approved for the treatment of Duchenne muscular dystrophy in patients. 5 years was approved for the treatment of Duchenne muscular dystrophy in patients who have confirmed mutation of the DMD gene that is amenable to exon 53 skipping, age and older. Eteplirsen was approved for the treatment of Duchenne muscular dystrophy in patients who have a confirmed mutation of the DMD gene that is amenable to exon 51 skipping. Golodirsen was approved for the treatment of Duchenne muscular dystrophy in patients who have confirmed mutation of the DMD gene that is amenable to exon 53 skipping.
One famous person who died with Duchenne muscular dystrophy is Alfredo Ferrari. He was an Italian automotive engineer and the son of Ferrari Automobiles Enzo Ferrari. Actually, he was the only illegitimate son of Enzo. On January 19, 1932, Alfredo Ferrari fell victim of Duchenne muscular dystrophy. He died on June 30, 1956 at the age of only 24. To sum it up, Duchenne muscular dystrophy is a severe form of muscular dystrophy caused by a genetic defect. Commonly occurred in males, symptoms of DMD include progressive weakness and loss of both skeletal and heart muscles. DMD is inherited in an X-linked recessive pattern and may occur in people who do not have a family history of DMD. There is no known cure for DMD, but there are treatments that can help control the symptoms. That's the end of our presentation. Thank you for listening.